Well, welcome everyone to another episode of How to Fight COVID-19 with Nutrition. I am Andrew Abbott once again, and I'm here with Susan Cowdrick. Hi, Susan. Good to see you again.
Hello, it's great to be here. Good to see you
Yes,
too.
we are so glad that you could join us here again. And I understand that we have kind of a two-pronged presentation for today that looks back on anecdotal evidence from history, but also focuses on how practically in the kitchen we can enhance our health and also fight viruses. So I'm anxious to get into this and see what insights we have for us today. And I figured just to start out, we would do an interview style question answer story-based insights on what you have for us. So I'll just jump right into these questions here. How does that sound?
That sounds terrific. Yeah.
All right. Well, here we go. So just a side note here to everyone who's watching, we have a story that will appear in the comments of this video that basically looks back on archived evidence from, I think it's a magazine article that you showed to me there, Susan, that goes over how a particular seminary, Hutchinson Seminary, treated Spanish flu cases that popped up in their midst. This is during the 1918 epidemic. And I think it was about 90 cases that they had on campus that they were dealing with. And just a side note along with that, I'm assuming at that time they were handling the virus differently than they would today. Of course, today we have schools closed and everyone's doing online learning. Of course, online wasn't an option back then, but these cases appeared and they had a very different method for how they were dealing with the virus in their midst, as opposed to the rest of the world. And that's what we're going to look at here today. So basically, what was their method that they used to fight the virus, Susan, and how did that work out for them?
Well, if you think back, 1918, it was quite some time ago. And 1918 was 3 years actually after Ellen White passed away. So her health message was alive and well, and people were eating plant-based diets that were Adventist predominantly. And that's what kind of food that they were actually eating in this seminary. So it had a huge effect. And in addition to eating a whole food plant-based diet, they actually practiced hydrotherapy, which is water therapy. And what they would actually do is go from extremes of having very, very cold water treatments or a cold shower for 3 minutes, and then going and having something hot, where what that does is really trigger an immune response and really makes your immune system stronger. So that played a significant role as well. But together, it loosens up the heat, and everything will loosen up congestion when you have a lung issue. So that was really paramount as well. But I wouldn't want to steal the show away about just saying how wonderful it was that they were plant-based and they had good circulation going on already in their body, and that just even helped it. So it's really amazing to just hear the success that they had 0 deaths. Thousands of people were dying all around them, and here they had this group of people that just did not get severely ill, and no one passed away from the Spanish flu at that point. So it's pretty amazing stuff.
Yeah, I think I remember hearing the stats back then were about 10 to 15% of those who caught the Spanish flu would have a fatal case. And here you have these 90 people, you'd expect at least 10 of them to have had a fatal case of this flu, and yet they all recovered just fine, every single one of them. And
yeah, no,
I
it
was
was a
intrigued.
blessing, really.
What was that?
It was a blessing.
Yeah.
I'm sure God blessed it and had his hands in it too, but a lot of it had to do with how they were conducting themselves as well. It really helped.
And it sounds like with that two-pronged approach, the plant-based diet as well as the hydrotherapy, this was something like the hydrotherapy, they probably started that pretty intensely once the virus came, but the plant-based diet was something they had practiced long before the virus ever hit. It wasn't as if they started on it immediately when the epidemic showed up. It was a habit of, or a policy, I could say, of the college at that point, and they were just continuing what they had already done. So, with the plant-based diet, I know you said that there are certain foods that really boost the immune system, and you gave a little snippet earlier about kind of the physiology behind how that worked. Can you shed some more light on that as to how that enhances the body, having a plant-based diet?
Yeah, the plant-based diet is really amazing. I think a lot of people spend too much time. It's called a reductionist approach, where they start to isolate a nutrient and start taking supplements. And the supplements are not even really governed by the FDA, and not a lot is known about them. And there's even some evidence to suggest that they're not helpful, where studies show when you actually eat the whole food that actually has a whole array of nutrients. We'll use an apple, for example. It has vitamin C, but there's so many other antioxidants and so many other benefits that just that isolating that one supplement or that one nutrient isn't going to necessarily give you the same bang for simply just eating an apple. So really looking at nutrition as more of a holistic approach than a reductionist approach, and not looking at it one type of nutrient at a time, but more collective. If you're eating a variety of fruits and vegetables and grains and legumes, you're going to get all the nutrients that you need. The only thing that you might be lacking is vitamin B12. I do take a supplement for vitamin B12, and I just wanted to explain a little bit what that even is. It's not necessarily a nutrient. Actually, what vitamin B12 is bacteria, and usually it's even found in our soil, our animals. If you're eating meat, you could get some of the bacteria from eating that, but if you're not, you have to find another way to get it. So there are some simple foods that might have traces of it, but we have done such a good job of just our food system and making sure everything is clean and sanitized, that it kind of strips away a lot of the B12. So that's why, not to go on too long about it, but that would be something, if you're on a plant-based diet, you should consider taking a supplement. Making sure you're eating mushrooms. There's something called nutritional yeast,
Mm.
which is like it's the yeast on a beet actually, and it's something that's added to make plant-based cheeses and things. So that would be something else that would give you a little bit of B12.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
other than that, just eat a variety, and it's covered. I really don't focus too much on it. I took a course at Cornell University on plant-based nutrition, and T.
Hmm.
Colin Campbell, who is the head of the program, really encourages people to eat what he calls a holistic diet, which is all the whole foods, if you will.
I see. Yes.
So,
Whole plant-based natural route is the way to go. And I was talking with you earlier too about how with the hydrotherapy, it was mainly about circulation, just passing out the toxins and allowing the blood flow to speed up the healing work in a lot of cases. And for them, that involves hot and cold compresses, but there's other more practical
mhm.
ways, and we can share more of that with you all in the comments as well as we go along, that are practical and efficient and handy. But I guess this would be a good point for us just to, um, I guess, head into more of the nutritional aspect with your cooking demonstration. But uh, along with this, we do want to put out a disclaimer that we're not physicians and we're not offering precise medical advice in this context for those who are already sick.
That's right. I'm so glad you brought this up. And, the COVID-19 is a new strain, it's a new virus. So even if we look at anecdotal evidence, it doesn't necessarily mean that we will necessarily have the same approach. But there are
Mhm.
other studies. Colin T. Campbell did a study when they were looking at tuberculosis and the effects on liver. And that study showed that the virus, the antigen, really backed away, and whole food plant-based actually improved the immune system all at the same time. So it boosted immunity and it lessened the antigen. So
Hmm.
there's a couple different things that have been done. But again, this certainly is helping. Another anecdotal evidence thing is I'm very communicative online with plant-based community and different doctors that have done research and really promote it. And as of right now, no one knows anyone that has passed away from COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone is still, they may have had some struggle where they've had to have as much as oxygen. I've known one person, but that's it. No ventilators, no deaths. So
Hmm.
that's anecdotal. And I'm not sure if they're able to put any kind of study together on just the people that are really following a plant-based diet and the healthier ramifications that they're experiencing when they even get COVID-19. Because you
Mm.
will still get it, but it may not take you down. That's what you really want to try to avoid at all costs, by eating a healthier diet.
Yes.
So
Right.
anyway,
Yeah, for sure.
I
All
will get
right.
into
Well,
the cooking a little bit.
sounds good. Go ahead.
So
Go right
today
ahead.
yeah, today we're actually going to make. I made them already, so I'll show you the finished product as well. But I have a chickpea oatmeal red lentil meatless loaf, which is one of my family's favorites. And I
Mm-hmm.
know changing to a plant-based diet, people are still very accustomed to seeing a center stage, if you will, on the plate, and not necessarily just looking around a variety of grains and fruits and vegetables. So if you have someone in your family that you're trying to move along and encourage to step away or reduce the amount of meat, this meatloaf, and it makes meatballs, it makes burgers. This recipe is really something that's just so delicious and really can encourage that person. It also can be used, love having it on for Sabbath meals as well, just special occasions. It's really lovely to have this loaf. But the other night we made meatballs too out of it. So like I said, it's very, very versatile, and it's just amazing. I just love oats, and I know my friend Lisa a couple weeks ago shared just wonderful things she's done with rice, where I think something that's really important that we need to look at is really get a grain that's a center of attention, and what are some of the wonderful things we can do with a grain. Where I just love my oats. I just want to hug my oats. I love them. I see them as a miracle grain.
Mm.
There's such an inflexibility right now with supply chain and getting food, where oats are still pretty readily available, that you can get
Mm.
them in the store, and they're very cost effective. I bought a 10-pound box. These are rolled oats, old fashioned oats, and it was $8.50, and I got 10 pounds. And this container, I've used some of it already, but this holds 5 pounds, just so you know. So it was an ample amount, and it goes quite far, and it's very, very affordable. So just to tell you some of the other things that I make with oats, I actually have it here because my husband was not able to eat his breakfast this morning, but we start our day typically. This is just oats and some pumpkin seeds and a couple nuts and some bananas and strawberries, and it makes
Mm.
for a delicious breakfast. So that's one way that's very common that people do. I think the secret to really enjoying it, if you're thinking, mush, is don't buy the instant oats. I really recommend people stay away from that.
Okay.
They're maybe 2 minutes quicker in preparing in the morning, but it really is kind of, my husband would call it glue. So it gets kind of sticky, where the oats stays a little bit to your tooth and has a little bit more grain to it. And
Okay.
we find it a lot more enjoyable. So that's why I would recommend that. But I love to hike, so I make hiking cookies with my oats too. And I didn't include the recipe. I could shoot it to you if you like, because I'm not demoing it today. But that is a 3-ingredient recipe where you just need a couple of really ripe bananas. You need some oats and some carob chips, and you bake it in the oven for 15 minutes, and you've got cookies.
Hmm.
So it's
Wow.
wonderful to just have something nutritious on the go if you need a snack or just as a treat. So, and it's really, really healthy and so easy. So that's one of the things I like to do. There, you can make pancakes with them, veggie burgers, like the meatloaf. The other thing I wanted to talk about, and I bought these a while ago. I have shelf-stable plant milk that I use, and this is an almond one. It's unsweetened, and it's kind of my go-to. But I haven't been to the food store in 2 months.
Hmm.
So I've really learned to keep a really nice pantry. I do go get fresh produce from a local little store that they have their grocery, their produce out by the gas pumps, if you will.
Oh,
So
wow.
I've been able to just get that as soon as they get a delivery. I go and get my produce. But this has just made it really easy. And I'm thinking when this milk goes, I'm going to be able to make milk out of oats. And you just use it in a bag and you submerge it in water and you strain it and you're good to go. So
Hmm.
it's wonderful and it's more affordable than making your plant milk out of nuts, cashews or almonds. So it's a wonderful alternative.
I
But
see.
yeah, I could go on and on about this all day. Let me just show you a couple things and we're going to get into the recipe because I know we've got a limited amount of time. So actually when I make the loaf, sometimes I make it into meatballs and this is really a wonderful thing. And if you don't have this at home, I got it on Amazon. It's pretty easy to find. You
Hmm.
can even use an ice cream scooper and put your meatballs, when you have them formed, they're meatless meatballs, by the way, on a parchment paper or a silicone baking sheet, and they will not stick. But this is really nice because the way this form works, and I'll use this today, is I can just put my mix on top here and then close it up, the whole thing,
Oh,
and and it'll make them into the individual meatballs. I just
huh.
put it in the freezer. So this is good for another time because this recipe actually has enough to make 2 loaves. So you get an
Interesting.
ample amount. The
Uh-huh.
other thing, we love to just have either individual sized where we make them like muffins, or you can make it like into a little burger shape, a slider or something if you want. So then you've got your burgers as well. But these are really, really quite nice. Wanted to share that. This is I have silicone baking loaf pans too, and this is the loaf completed, and I have a really nice glaze on top. But this is
Hmm.
something you can use to make like a mushroom gravy if you want. Just really delicious, and you can enjoy it for a wonderful Sabbath meal or
Yes, that was
holiday meal.
scrumptious.
Yeah, and then this is one that actually is complete, but I didn't put the topping on. I didn't put the glaze on, so you can see it. The glaze will be included in the recipe as well, and it's made with no sugar, but it's just delicious because it's got some really great sweet ingredients. It's got some tomato paste and a little bit of maple syrup and some other things that just give it some really good flavor, aminos and things like that. So we'll talk
Hmm.
a little bit about it. But without further ado, we can just get started, and I'll show you how easy this is. To begin the recipe, we used some red lentils, and what I actually did here was just for the sake of time, I put a half a cup of red lentils in with a little over a cup of plant-based milk and just let it sit. Because what these will do will expand and soften up the lentils a bit. So I have
I
all
see.
that going.
Huh.
So we did that in advance. And then I did take the liberty to chop some of the vegetables. I just put it in a food processor. These are just the carrots. I have the onions. I have celery and some
Hmm.
green pepper. So that's all put together. So we can mix that all together. I have a bigger bowl because I really like my big bowl. I
Uh-huh.
get a lot less on the floor when I use my big bowl. So I'm just going to add some of these ingredients here.
All right.
So we'll put that all together. And then I did use oats. This recipe does say you can also use breadcrumbs, but I just love my oats so much. I prefer it this way.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes when you have whole flour that's in breadcrumb, it actually could have some kind of inflammatory response if it has gluten.
Oh,
Where
right.
the other beautiful thing, and it's absolutely wonderful, the oats do not have
Hmm.
gluten. And if you're
Oh.
If you have celiac and you're very sensitive, you can get gluten-free oats because they're not processed with other types of wheat products. If you
Hmm.
just if you just have a little sensitivity, you might be okay just having your regular oats. But if you need the gluten-free oats, they do have those available too. But I do have a little bit of gluten sensitivity, so just the regular oats is something I often prefer, and I think they're fine. So the other thing that I did before we even get started, the first thing I'll probably put in is this is chickpeas.
Okay.
And I made chickpeas this morning with my Instapot. I buy them with dried beans and then I make them. The Instapot does it very, very quickly. It takes about 20 minutes. It probably takes longer for the Instapot to heat up than processing the beans. But it really helped me master cooking beans. I went to the point of not being clueless about how to make them. They were kind of crunchy, not very good. To people saying, "What is in that? That is so delicious." Well,
Hmm.
I have to share with you just what the secret is. And this is vegetable stock. So as
Oh,
I'm chopping, and I have the onion, the covering to the onions, and the little stems of the carrots, and the crunchy shells even of the onion itself, and the seeds of the pepper goes in a bag. I call it my stockpile, and I put it in the freezer. So when I'm ready to make broth, I don't even have to make it with anything. It's just with stuff that would have went in the trash. So
hmm.
all this broth that I have was made with things I would have normally thrown out, and it's absolutely delicious, and it gives so much flavor. Where flavor is very important when you're eliminating oil from your cooking, you have to replace it with something else, and that really makes the difference.
Huh.
So we
Okay.
put a couple little, I put Italian seasoning in, sometimes a little cumin, and the broth makes all the difference in the world. They're the
Huh.
tastiest beans you can imagine. But what
Wow.
we actually did, I have a potato masher. You could mash these up or put them in the whole food processor. You've got to be really careful not to over process if it's in the whole food processor, because you don't want
Hmm.
this to be a hummus. Hummus is another yummy thing you can do with chickpeas, but it doesn't go
Okay.
with this recipe. So you still want it having some texture to it, not to be just creamy.
A little
So
more
you could
fiber,
use,
huh?
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Keeping it as whole as possible, it keeps it healthier, and it'll add a little bit of body to your meatballs or your meatloaf. So you just put that in, and then we're going to put the other uh, vegetables in, our peppers, our carrots, our celery. You see that there's all kinds of stuff. The other thing that's wonderful about this is
Hmm.
people are getting all kinds of vegetables that they're not even aware of when they have this delicious loaf.
Yeah.
Um, so you just put that in. We add the onions.
Well, I was just thinking, it looks like a complete meal when you have your grains, your veggies, your
Yeah,
seasonings, your and
it's
yeah,
wonderful just to make a sandwich. Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
So we're just
And
eat it
some,
plain. So then
yeah.
we're gonna put this is the oats, and I did put this in a blender and just zhuzhed it for a minute just to make it a little finer,
Hmm.
more replicating more the texture of a breadcrumb, if you will. So we
Hmm.
just put that in, and then I have some dry ingredients, and this might actually seem a little wet at first, but I have to say I'm putting flax meal in, and flax meal is our substitute that we use instead of using egg. And
Hmm.
what it will do is actually create this more of a gel-like, suck in a lot of the water, and actually help keep the whole loaf together. So it's a really a critical piece. There's so many nutrients in flax meal as well. So it's like from a flax seed. And this is just Italian seasoning, and it's just an herbal blend of different types of basil and rosemary, oregano, some other types of flavoring. So just put that in. And then here I've got some paprika. Now, if you don't like a lot, you may want to scale it back, but the paprika we have is sweet paprika, and it's got a smoky flavor, which we'll be adding, which is very, very nice. But if you don't like heat at all, you may want to dial that back. You got to make, whenever you have a recipe, you really need to make it your own as well, to make sure that it works for you. So it's that easy. And then the last thing I just wanted to, I have all my wet ingredients here. I have a little bit of garlic. I've got some tomato paste. I've got some Worcestershire. I've got some Bragg's amino, and I'm just mixing that up a little bit before I put it in, because if you put it in, it's kind of hard, and then you just give this a good toss, and then you're ready already to put it in the oven. I mean, that's how
Huh.
simple and easy this is to make. It's just so quick.
That's awesome. Yeah, I can just, my mouth's watering already. I can see there's a lot of
Yeah,
zesty flavors. The richness is in
yeah,
there. It's, wow.
yeah. And you would, it's so easy just to keep some of these basic ingredients in your house, even
Mm,
as things are becoming a little bit more random, I guess, with what you can find around. So
mm,
um, you just mix that up and then put it in your pans and you're good to go. And when you're ready to put it in the oven, you only have to put it in there for a loaf. These 2 loaves I made took about 30 minutes. So it's really quick even.
okay.
Um,
Huh.
but let me just show you what it looks like. See, it's all coming together already.
Yeah, that's great. And probably a good supply like that could last someone a while if they put it in the fridge or have it stored
Yeah,
properly and could stick in a sandwich
absolutely.
later on. Yeah.
I have an alert, so I don't know if you see this. Let me just fix this. There we go.
All
I'm not
right.
sure if you could view that or not, but
No, you're
so
fine.
yeah, the next thing would be just to put those away. I wanted to show you just what the glaze looked like. You don't have to put the glaze on anything, but it's a healthier version than using ketchup. A lot of people put ketchup on meatloaf.
Mm,
There's so much sugar in this, where this just is a nice consistency and does not have all that sugar. So it's just
mm,
made mostly with tomato paste is what the base is. And like I
mm.
said, more aminos and things like that are added um, to give it a little bit more flavor. And there's a little bit of maple syrup in that. But this is really simple. Let me just move these out of the way. And then it's just so easy. You can just dollop it and just put it right in. Um,
Hey,
there you go. You guys get the idea.
yeah,
It's pretty
that's
simple.
great. Yeah, that is very simple and very handy and efficient, and I
No,
bet
yeah, and it's
extremely tasty.
so hopefully everybody will try it and love it as much as we do. And
Yeah.
again, this whole thing, what I'm just going to do is just put this all over the top. And then I just put this on top and then it goes right in the freezer.
I see.
So I'll do that for you
Awesome.
as well.
Yeah, well, those who are watching, please go down to the comments when you see this video because we'll have the recipe there and all the details we listed out on the comments that you can take a look and yeah, see how to replicate this at home in a handy, efficient, and highly tasty way.
Yeah, no, I
So,
highly recommend too looking into a little bit more, just trying those simple cookies, that 3-part recipe, and looking at all the benefits of oats
mm,
because it's so healthy, so nutritious. Caldwell Esselstyn, who is a famous cardiologist who really requires his patients, he won't even work on anyone unless they eat plant-based, just
mm,
to help to reverse their heart problems. He must eat this 3 or 4 times a day. He really walks the talk and really believes in oats. So
mm-hmm.
um, I just think it's a wonderful food and it's plentiful and it's very, very affordable.
Yeah.
I heard something on the news last night that we had the largest increase in the price of food since 1974 in the month of
Wow.
April, that it went up
Uh-huh.
2.6%. So there's a lot more, um, I guess, need because people are cooking more at home, and just because of the supply chain challenges, the prices are just really going up. So this is a really great way that you can feed your family a nutritious meal without, you know, losing all your money at the
Mm-hmm.
grocery store. So
Yeah. It's very good for your budget and also it keeps well too. If you get a big sack, that'll last you for quite a while and it's a good
Yes.
go-to for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no. If you have a garden at home and you've got some of the uh, bulk size grains, I think Lisa talked about too, even with rice, really trying to buy those kinds of things in bulk, you're in good shape. You know,
Mhm.
having this paired up and doing a victory garden, that's something we're working on too, is just
Mm,
trying to have ample fresh fruits and vegetables is really huge for us to all do our part to have food security and food sustainability. So,
yes. Amen. Well, thank you so much, Susan. Yeah, I appreciate the recipe demonstration. I'm definitely going to take that down and see if we can make that a part of our meal routine as well. So thank you so much for your
yeah, please
presentation.
try
And
it.
yeah, like I said, folks, take a look at the comments. I'll have this recipe there, and stay tuned for more episodes. We'll continue the journey, and it should be a fun journey of discovery as we continue learning together. So thank you, Susan. Appreciate it so
Thank
much. And
you.
yeah, we'll sign off here, but have a good rest of your day, everyone. Please catch us again next week for more episodes. God bless.
God bless.